Spielberg, jene Ort, in dem die Rennstrecke liegt, in der Gemeinde Spielberg, der Country von Spielberg, der große Preis von Österreich und die Markt und die Kapelle hat natürlich den Vortritt gehabt. Und jetzt schauen wir auf die Fahnenschwinger aus Eppenstein. Die Eppensteiner Fahnenschwinger sind die nächsten und wir warten im Prinzip dann auch noch ganz oben in der Kurve. Da steht sie bereits, die Werkskapelle Zetweg. Die Werkskapelle Zetweg wird uns als nächste Gruppe dann musikalisch unterhalten. Vorher aber die Eppensteiner Fahnenschwinger, die jetzt hier zur Haupttribüne zu Start und Ziel hierher kommen. Die Eppensteiner Fahnenschwinger, die wir schon von einmal hier gesehen haben und die, das kann man ruhig sagen, die wir Fahnen wirklich ganz ausgezeichnet beherrschen. Hinausmarschiert in der Zwischenzeit die Marktmusikkapelle aus Spielberg, wieder an den Tribünen vorbei, hinaus in Richtung Zielkurve, wo wir Marsch begonnen haben, während wir hier vorne jetzt die Fahnenschwinger aus Eppenstein sehen und ganz oben in der Kurve, in der Kontrollkurve, da haben bereits die Damen und Herren der Werkskapelle aus Zeltweg Aufstellung genommen. Wir verabschieden uns jetzt aber noch einmal mit einem prächtigen Applaus von der Marktmusikkapelle aus Spielberg, die sich hier mit uns verabschiedet hat. Dankeschön, dass ihr im Mittagsprogramm dabei wart und Postbote des Kölners gezeigt habt. Wir konzentrieren uns jetzt Hologramm auf die Fahnenschwinger aus Eppenstein, die jetzt hier schon langsam in die Mitte der Tribüne kommen und uns hier in der Mitte der Tribüne dann ganz exakt ihr Programm vorführen werden. Übrigens die nächste Flugvorführung. Das wird die Vorführung mit den 6 Saab 105 sein. Die wird um 13:13 Uhr beginnen, also in einer knappen Viertelstunde wird sie sein. Und jetzt schauen wir den Fahnenschwingern aus Eppenstein einmal zu. Die haben hier diese wunderschönen Fahnen österreichischer Bundesländer. Hier mit vorne die österreichische Fahne und die steirische Fahne. Eppenstein, ein Ort hier in der Region, ein Ort hier in der mittleren Steiermark. So, jetzt also auf das Signal, wenn es ernsthaft losgeht mit der Vorführung jetzt der Eppensteiner Fahnenschwinger. Wir sind gespannt jetzt auf Ihre Fragen. So. Weitergehen, wir können uns jetzt noch ein Stückchen in aller Ruhe anhören hier, ehe dann die Flugvorführung beginnt. 12-4 hat Ihnen 4 Fahnenstreich, Reichsbürger einen Jugendschaftschaft ist einen Punkt auf den diesjährigen Fünfrennen. Der kommt in Österreich in der Station Nummer 6 in Kalender. In der Werkstufe der Konstrukteure für Ferrari deutlich 50 Punkte vom Ignaz, Mercedes 32, Philips BMW 18 plus 13.009, A107 und 10.000 Renault mit einem Punkt durch Stadthaus in die Keller. Wetter durchgearbeitet werde heute auch wie bei optimalen Verhältnissen, nicht so extrem heiß wie normalerweise im Sommer, herrliches Wetter, traumhafter Tag, am Muttertag, mein Gruß hier noch einmal an alle Mütter, die heute den Muttertag hier im Kreise der Formel 1 Familie verbringen. Und es sind noch 2 Minuten bis die Boxenstraße geöffnet ist. Auch Michael Schumacher ist bereits fertig, auch er hat bereits eben aufgesetzt, hat alles vorbereitet und ist ausgereift. In der Ausfahrt der Boxenstraße 2, 1, und grünes Licht, es hat
team with live coverage of the Austrian Grand Prix.
ITV in association with Texaco.
Schumacher then, the first man into the nines, and brilliantly into the nines.
Now that is an incredible time. It is 6/10 of a second faster than Rubens Barrichello, and it's 8/10 of a second faster than Mika Häkkinen.
It's one of the shortest and quickest laps of the Formula One year. Spielberg's A1 ring presents very special problems. Welcome to race day in Austria. Hello there, this is the only racetrack where you can see snow up there on the mountains. Those slopes aren't that far away, but today conditions absolutely perfect for racing on the tarmac. This is Michael Schumacher's bogey circuit, but he stuck the Ferrari on pole and comes here on top of the championship standings as well. 8 points clear of David Coulthard after that lucky win in Spain. Coulthard, though, he's been second in Austria for the last 4 years. Barrichello, well, he loves this place. Ralf Schumacher is based in Salzburg. Heidfeld has done well for Sauber. Trulli, though, starts just ahead of him. Now then, Tony Jardine, Michael Schumacher has never won here. You might just remember what happened to him last year as well.
And it could happen again if you look at who's around him on the grid. He's got Juan Pablo Montoya next to him, the man who overtook him in Brazil. But Michael Schumacher started from fourth, and overzealous Zonta, who started sixth behind him, hit him from behind. Off he spun. Jarno Trulli went into him. Look at him interlocked there, and Michael Schumacher was out, and you saw Ralf Schumacher being caught out there as well. This morning, electrical problem with the spare car. Now, this man is at his peak of his fitness. He said, I'm much fitter than I was this time last year. Goodness help the opposition this afternoon. Very fit, went back, took his race car. They fixed his spare car as well. Ferrari in very, very good shape, but it's all down to the start.
What chance that the two Williams cars will run away from Schumacher at the start then?
Very good indeed, because it requires more than 60% full throttle here, a power circuit. Gerhard Berger's BMW man, so that's good for us. Juan Pablo Montoya here took second place from his teammate Ralf Schumacher, preventing the brothers on the front row as in Brazil. They're looking good, but it's a question of tyres, and I'm sure James will update us on that later on.
I'm sure he will. Thank you, Tony. Let me just confirm the grid for you then. Fifth pole out of six for Michael Schumacher. Montoya, first podium in Spain, first front row here in Austria. Ralf Schumacher in the second Williams. That is a great effort. Then Barrichello, Trulli and Heidfeld, both ahead of the McLarens. Irvine's Jaguar 13th as normal, and poor Jenson Button down on the back row. The sad truth is we expected that. A big shock, though, to see the McLarens down on the fourth row. Why is that? Well, that's what Louise Goodman has been trying to find out.
McLaren topped the timesheets from the first free practice session on Friday right through to the start of the qualifying hour. Then, just when it really mattered, things started to go wrong. Never mind battling for pole, Häkkinen and Coulthard were struggling just to make it into the top 10. The team eventually recorded their worst qualifying performance in almost 4 years.
Clearly a very disappointing session for everyone in the team. We didn't perform as fast as we'd gone in the morning session. So, you know, considering we're running less fuel, and you know we've had some problems with the oversteer, and we just haven't been able to attack the lap.
It's quite a big disaster. We lost from the pole position maybe 7, 8, 10. So it's quite a big gap. Conditions changed quite a lot in terms of wind, and we weren't able to balance the car for that condition. McLaren has to understand and analyze it, and then when they come with the solution, we will be more clever next time.
It's not over yet. You never know what happens, and we can come away with 10 points, and then qualifying will seem a distant memory. So I think it's important to keep things in perspective, and it's when the checker flag drops that you count your points.
Now, when we left him in Spain, McLaren boss Ron Dennis was still trying to sort things out with David Coulthard after accusing him on this programme of suffering a touch of brain fade. As it transpired, a computer glitch caused Coulthard's McLaren to fail. Today, Ron Dennis isn't that happy with me.
As regards last weekend and my comments, I think Jim Rosenthal's a little bit to blame for that, because what I shared with your viewers was based on the information I was given during the course of the race. I qualified it, and by saying we hadn't got all the information at that stage, or something similar to that. And then, of course, the only thing fed into David was the fact that I'd suffered from brain fade. It scores sort of less than 1 out of 10 as being an insulting remark. I don't think many of the viewers appreciate, you know, we have our own expressions common down the pit lane, and brain fade just refers to a sort of momentary lapse of concentration.
I think it scored just a bit more than 1 out of 10 in David Coulthard's book of Formula One insults, judging by the look in his eyes in Barcelona. OK then, coming up we have Murray's memories of the Österreich Ring. There's Martin's grid walk too. After the race, by the way, our competition result. And there's Ross Kemp learning the ropes with Jordan. Ross intends to be in the pit crew for real at the British Grand Prix. Beautiful day at Spielberg in the Styrian Mountains in southern Austria, around 3 hours drive from Vienna. We've been coming to the A1 ring since 1997. They took just 280 days. They spent £15 million on the new circuit. But this site has Formula One memories dripping off the trees.
The Austrian Grand Prix has been a bit of a stop-go affair. It started in 1964, stopped, and then started again here at the magnificent old Österreich Ring. Now, sadly, just a vehicle park. 1978 saw a mighty cloudburst with cars spinning off, including America's Mario Andretti. And Andretti's lost it! Andretti's out of the race already! Mario went on to win the championship with the all-conquering Lotus 79, but it was his teammate, the charming Ronnie Peterson, who won in Austria. There were some thrilling finishes at the old Österreich Ring. In 1980, Frenchman Jean-Pierre Jabouille in the turbocharged Renault beat that year's world champion Alan Jones in his Williams by a mere 0.8 of a second. Jabouille can see the checkered flag. Jones right behind him, getting closer but not close enough. Jabouille wins and Jones is in second place. But it was even closer in 1982 when Elio De Angelis's Lotus surged across the line just 0.05 of a second ahead of Keke Rosberg's Williams. Listen to James Hunt.
Oh, it's fantastic stuff. The Andrews kept him well blocked. That's very excusable on the last lap, but Rosberg's coming at him. He's going to finish side by side, and the Andrews has just held it.
Sadly, though, it was the last Lotus win witnessed by the team's great founder, Colin Chapman. The Österreich was a fantastic venue, a real racer's circuit, and 1987 was an amazing year. There were 3 starts because of collisions, the first of which was initiated by ITV's very own Martin Brundle. But it was our other British hero who'd take the glory, Nigel Mansell in his Williams Honda, at a blistering average of 146 miles an hour.
And here he is, completing the 52nd and last lap of the Austrian Grand Prix. And as Nigel Mansell crosses the line to win, there is no checkered flag.
Nigel did win the race, and then came the interview.
Nigel, first of all, will you carefully and slowly take your hat off? You've got an enormous bump on your head. Can you let them see it?
I don't know whether...
Right up there. Oh, I'm sorry.
Off with the old and on with the new. The A1 ring, a shortened and sanitised circuit in the same beautiful valley which opened in 1997. In 1999, Eddie Irvine took over leadership of the Ferrari team after Michael Schumacher broke his leg at Silverstone, to achieve his 2nd Grand Prix victory and the team's first in Austria since 1970. Mika Häkkinen won for McLaren last year, as he did in 1998. But the man to watch this year has to be his teammate, David Coulthard. David's had his moments here. He punted Mika off at turn 2 in 1999, but in spite of that, he's been 2nd for the last 4 years. He's been Mr. Consistency this year with points from all the first 5 races. Can he make it his 11th career win here today? Stay tuned.
Well, David Coulthard suffered when traction control returned in Spain. Not everyone is using it. In fact, here the teams are struggling to master all those latest gizmos. James Allen has this.
There were plenty of glitches with the new computer systems 2 weeks ago in Spain, but since then the teams have done a lot of testing, going deeper into what they have to offer. And although reliability is still a concern, they're all using the traction control systems this weekend.
People can't run without it really now. There's too much of an advantage in it. Obviously turn 1 and turn 2 here, important acceleration points away from those corners from quite low speed, so it's acting quite heavily. And likewise on the start, I think quite a heavy function here.
One of the key jobs traction control does is it helps to preserve the rear tyres, and that's going to be essential today because the key to today's race is going to be managing the tyres. We've seen in practice that the Michelin's performance goes off a little bit after the first few laps, but then comes on very strongly later on. The Bridgestone is much more consistent. If that happens today, Michael Schumacher might well be able to make a break for it, but the Williamses will come on very strong towards the middle of the race.
Thanks, James. You could easily go for a stroll in the forest round here. Instead, let's go for a quick walk on the grid with Martin.
Thanks, Jim. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the grid. Not got too much time today. Michael Schumacher on pole position, of course, and he's got to get up that hill. Can you see it, Andy? Up that hill faster than Montoya in the Williams, who's alongside him on the grid. Juan Pablo, first time on the front row, of course, in Formula 1. Let's just see if we can have a quick word with him. Haven't managed to tee anything up. Juan Pablo, any chance of a quick word for the British viewers? Is that a maybe or a no?
No. Be all right, just...
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Welcome to the front of the grid. Okay, good luck. Oh, well, we tried. So let me take you down, and we think this car's got probably 30 or 40 horsepower more than Michael Schumacher has. So Schumacher's racing the McLarens, of course, for the championship, but I think he's racing BMW today, and particularly to that first corner. Michael may well run a little bit less fuel to give him half a chance to get to that first corner first. Big shunt last year here on the first corner, as you know. Big shunt yesterday in the Formula 3000 race. Tricky area. Plus, I think Ferrari still have overheating brakes as well. So a little bit less fuel, excuse me very much, a little bit less fuel before he has to get to that first corner will be critical. Ralf Schumacher, his brother, just behind him here. He could be in the same situation. Michelin tyres may grain, may go off a little bit for the first 10 laps and then come back to them. Williams BMW very strong today. Barrichello will be sitting there waiting, hopefully, to pick up the pieces. A new order on the grid today. New guys around for us. Montoya on the front row. Trulli here in 5th place. You can already see him in the car. Häkkinen and Schumacher and Coulthard having a bad time. Back to you.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. We are all set. Last year, Michael Schumacher didn't get beyond the first corner. The Austrian Grand Prix is coming up for you next.
Dat voorkomt dat de achterwielen gaan spinnen. Bijvoorbeeld bij de start, maar ook bij het uitaccelereren van een bocht. Nou, daarvoor heb je dat traction control system. En voor de start is dat een speciaal launch control system. Dan wordt de wagen als het ware afgeschoten. Patriciello stond niet bekend in het verleden als een geweldige starter, dus die zal er absoluut voordeel bij hebben. Maar deze Michael Schumacher beweert dat ondanks al die elektronische hulpmiddelen het nog steeds een zaak is van de coureurs. Beste coureurs kunnen zo'n systeem ook als beste gebruiken. Zeg je Oostenrijk en Formule 1, dan zeg je Niki Lauda, die zijn duim opstak naar Michael Schumacher. Lauda tegenwoordig de hoogste baas bij Jaguar. En de meest succesvolle Oostenrijker tot nu toe in de Formule 1. 25 Grand Prix overwinningen voor Niki Lauda. Van 15 met Ferrari. Hij werd 3-maal wereldkampioen. En Lauda won in 1984 de grote prijs van Oostenrijk. Voor eigen publiek dus. Deze man won hem nog nooit, Michael Schumacher. Maar ja, ooit moet er een einde komen aan zo'n negatieve reeks. En die weet dus vandaag. En wat kunnen we nog gaan verwachten van McLaren? Dat kan ongetwijfeld teambaas Ron Dennis ons vertellen.
Ron Dennis, 7th and 8th on the grid, not where you'd wanted your cars to start here with such a tight first corner. How much is that going to affect the way you operate this race?
Well, the first thing is a better question asked after the first lap. I mean, this is not an easy circuit to cope with when it comes to first lap instance, and you know, after that we have a strategy which we think will give us the best opportunity of a result. Of course, we're here to win. It's not easy to win from here, but it has been done in the past, and we give it our best shot.
So does that mean we might see one or both of your cars on a two-stop strategy?
It means that we're going to do, we'll have a strategy which we think is best appropriate, but certainly not one that we're going to share with the world.
That's a great shame. Best of luck there, Ron.
Thank you.
Ja, een van de best bewaarde geheimen in de Formule 1. Hoe vaak gaan de rijders stoppen in de race? De winnaar vorig jaar, Mika Häkkinen, had toen maar 1 pitstop nodig. Maar wie weet willen de McLaren's vanaf die 4e rij wat gaan proberen. En kiezen ze voor een 2-stop strategie. Ik verdenk Montoya en Ralf Schumacher ervan in elk geval dat ze maar 1 keer gaan stoppen. Want zelfs met veel benzine aan boord is de Williams nog snel. Normaal gesproken hoort u aan mijn zijde het vertrouwde stemgeluid van Tom Coronel. Helaas, hij is er vandaag niet bij. Is actief op het circuit van Silverstone. Samen met zijn teamgenoot Jamie Campbell Walters in de Lister Storm. Ze stonden op de eerste startrij achter de Nederlanders Mike Heeseman en Jeroen Blekemolen in de Chrysler Viper. Laten we maar hopen voor Tommy dat hij daar de overwinning kan gaan pakken in die FIA GT race. Volgende keer in Monaco over 2 weken is hij weer van de partij. En nu we het toch over Nederlanders hebben. Hoe ging het met Jos Verstappen gisteren in de kwalificatietraining? Nou, niet al te best. Slechts 16e, had veel last van onderstuur.
Welcome back to the A1 ring. It's 20 degrees for race 6 of F1 2001, the Austrian Grand Prix. Don't forget, after the action, the result of our competition, plus Ross Kemp's dramas as a Jordan mechanic. But now we join Martin Brundle and Murray Walker. Beautiful day for it, Murray.
Absolutely sensational day, Jim, and this wonderful scenery all around us. It is the most picturesque Grand Prix circuit in the world, without a doubt. Now, you've had the scene set superbly for you by Martin. I'm going to repeat the key points, because so very often at this Austrian Grand Prix, the opening first 2 corners have in effect settled the race. Last year, you've seen the footage of Michael Schumacher being punted off by Zonta. His teammate, Rubens Barrichello, being hit by Jarno Trulli. Well, they come surging up to that first corner here, uphill. You can see it's the bottom left corner on the graphic you're looking at. They tackle it at about 80 miles an hour, but there's going to be a solid lump of 22 of them. And then there's the long climb up to turn 2, which they reach some 185 miles an hour. Rubens Barrichello there 4th on the grid. Now, Michael Schumacher, as is his way today, was last out of the garage. Everybody was on the grid, and at 1/4 to the hour, just before the last possible moment he could leave the garage, he did so. Rolled out onto the grid. Everybody melted away as the Ferrari cut its way along the tarmac into that pole position. It's the first time that Michael Schumacher has been on the front row of the grid in Austria. He's never been higher than 4th on the grid before, and this is the only Grand Prix race, as you look at him now, that he has not won. Is he going to do it today? Well, he's won in Australia, he's won in Malaysia, he's won, of course, in Spain. And he's got these row of pole positions. Only one pole position this year has been denied him, and that was David Coulthard, the San Marino Grand Prix. Now, what a struggle McLaren have got. 7th and 8th on the grid, and in front of David Coulthard there is Nick Heidfeld. Nobody's mentioned Heidfeld yet today. The young German driver in the Sauber, very much the team of the season as far as I'm concerned. Superb effort with their Ferrari engines to be up in 6th position for Heidfeld and 9th position for newcomer Kimi Räikkönen. So Coulthard and Häkkinen have got Heidfeld and Trulli and Barrichello and Schumacher and Montoya to pass before they can get to grips with Michael Schumacher, assuming, and what a big assuming it is, he gets round the first corner and clears off. What do you think?
Michael had a bit of a cloudy face as he came to the grid. A few dignitaries standing in the way of his grid slot. He didn't look too happy at all when I was down there, Murray, just before walking along the grid. And he's really got a job on his hands this afternoon to fight off those BMW Williams. He knows they've got 5 or 6 kilometres straight line speed advantage on him. Plus, when they're in his slipstream, it could be as high as 10 Ks. And I think Montoya knows that if he gets away reasonably well, and of course they've got launch control now, they should all get away quite well. The inside of the track very, very dirty. Saw 1 or 2 of the runners thinking ahead and trying to clean up that side of the grid this morning during the warm-up. Fastest, of course, Häkkinen, and second Coulthard. Every other session this weekend, and McLaren has been fastest up until when it really mattered in qualifying. They got the setup wrong. They didn't react fast enough. They hit traffic. It was windy, it was dusty, and they've given themselves quite a headache for the afternoon. If Michael Schumacher can get away early on in this race, I think then he could be extending his World Championship advantage today. So Michael knows the early stages of this race are absolutely critical.
Yep, as you look at Ralf Schumacher, ahead of him on the grid is his teammate Juan Pablo Montoya, and Montoya is fearless, the Colombian. He's won in America, he's been champion of America, he's won the Indy 500. And you look at Jarno Trulli, and now at Pablo Montoya himself. 22 cars on the grid. Jenson Button right at the back in the Benetton, and his teammate Fisichella in front of him. The Benettons are still climbing that massive mountain. Tasso Marquez in the European Minardi is 22nd on the grid, and any moment now the parade lap, the formation lap will begin. Now there are 71 laps in this race. It's a short track, 2.7 miles long, and away they go. Talk us round, Martin.
Yes, no, they don't want to use the launch control too much off the grid. They want to lay 2 black lines of as much rubber as they can get down to give themselves a better chance next time around. That's a very steep hill, as I hope you could see on the grid walk. Up there into turn 1 means you can brake super late, but it's dirty on the inside. A long sweeping straight then down towards turn 2, which has another uphill arrival zone. And again, this does tend to be an overtaking slot, but it's got to be a willing party that you're overtaking into there. 2 cars cannot get around there safely at the same time. It'll almost always end in tears towards how the old track used to be now, just for a little while as they head down into turn 3. Tricky corner, the cars always look quite slow and clumsy through there. Bit of off camber, the track falls away from you. And cutting back now to the McLaren Mercedes-Benz pit. Hopefully we'll go back on track. Yes, we will, as they head through turn 5. A really fast left-hander where they lean right on the outside of the racetrack, straight into another left-hander. If you any problems out of one corner, you're straight into the next one. Tends to have a snowball effect. Then a pretty easy turn 7 before they come over the crest here into the corner where they've all been flying off the racetrack through practice and qualifying. It's a high-speed arrival, something around 150 miles an hour over the crest of the hill there. and immediately feed the car in over a new white line that marks the pit lane entry. And this is the final corner where they have to launch off the curb, try to catch the car the other side, keeping as much throttle on as possible into gain once again rather, that pit straight up the hill towards turn 1.
So, just remember, it is this first turn that's going to be critical. Michael Schumacher nearest you on the right-hand side, then Montoya. Behind Michael Schumacher, his brother, Ralph. Behind Montoya is Rubens Barrichello, then Jarno Trulli, Nick Heidfeld in the Sauber, and in row 4, the 2 McLarens as Jenson Button brings up the rear. The last grid, that is the 11th row of the grid. Look at Montoya. Watch for the lights when they come. There they are. It's going to be 5 when they all go out. The race will begin. There'll be a pause after the 5th light. And it's go! They get away. A good start, a brilliant start. And the 2 Jordans are left on the line. And up, and it's the 2 Williams in the lead already. Montoya leads, and Ralf Schumacher is in 2nd place. Michael Schumacher down to 3rd position, and look at that.
Hakkinen 2, so we've got a Sauber, a Jordan, and McLaren. There's another car also on the grid, so launch controls are still not sorted out. We've got a Williams 1-2, a Ferrari 3-4, Coulthard then. Too many cars to clear on the line, Murray. I wonder if they'll have to bring the safety car out. So many cars to get out of the way.
Yeah, it's a very short lap. It's Raikkonen who is stuck down there. And off goes the Jordan, and they're pushing it away from the line. Let us hope that they are able to clear those cars, because it's a magnificent start for the 2 Williams BMWs, and Montoya leads a Grand Prix, as he did in Brazil, and it is Mika Hakkinen who is sitting on the line. Mika Hakkinen, who was 8th, the man who has done so badly in the World Championship this year, a double world champion already, but lap 1, Montoya leads, Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, Barrichello is still in 4th position. He started there.
I think they have to bring the safety car out, Murray. Too many cars to clear away. And let me have a look, see if I can see any kind of notice. The safety car is deployed, as you can now see on your screen. They cannot clear Hakkinen out of the way. He's not really in a super dangerous situation. Clearly they can't find neutral. There should be a separate reservoir of energy to pull that car into neutral. You lose all the hydraulic power when the engine dies. Should be a separate source of energy. It's not working on the McLaren. And when you see a replay of the start, both Williams BMWs flying off the line. Michael Schumacher appearing to get away well, but just not going anywhere once he got up to speed. And we saw 4 cars stalled on the line. You can see them bumping along. They're actually turning the engine over as they're trying to push that McLaren along. And really, he's going to have to get out, and they're going to have to crane it off.
Mika says, I don't know, that's it, shakes his head. Well, what a terrible, terrible season it is for double world champion Mika Hakkinen. 3 failures to finish already in Australia, in Brazil, and in Spain, where he had that problem. And here, again, it looks as though he's not going to even start the race. And here is the replay. Now, watch the 2 white and blue BMWs. Look at Montoya on the dirty side of the track. And what a sensational start from Ralf Schumacher, straight past his brother. And his brother is challenged, but Michael Schumacher turns in. He's cleared that first corner this year. Martin, take this one again.
Well, look, they're just having to dive all over the place. So many, I've never seen so many stalled cars on the grid. Both Jordans then, Hakkinen and Raikkonen, and no dramas at the first corner. We're missing some key players by the time we get there. And look, a Williams 1-2. Coulthard appeared to have a good start, look, virtually past both Ferraris, but then lost out somehow, is now back down in 5th place. And look at that, that's a sinking feeling in your heart if you're Eddie Jordan. And a disaster. All of these Fandango electronics, look, and they're just failing. They're failing the drivers, they're failing the teams.
Just goes to show the best electronic brains in the world couldn't solve that problem. Now, with the safety car out, and there's the replay again, and that start from Ralf Schumacher's is one of the best I have ever seen in Grand Prix racing. Straight up to his teammate. Now, the order now, we're on lap 3, of course, with the safety car still out, with Montoya leading Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW, Michael Schumacher 3rd, his teammate Rubens Barrichello is 4th, David Coulthard, who started 7th, has gained 2 places, he's up to 5th.
And here's that start. Look at Ralf, just hooked it up beautifully, but Montoya keeps the inside line, doesn't really squeeze his teammate, and Ralf, knowing he's going to have to yield, Michael just did not get away. Looked like there was much too much power being taken out by his launch control. Moved off the line. I stood looking out of the window while you were talking, Murray. Michael Schumacher moving away nicely as the lights went off, but just didn't go anywhere, and the Williams BMWs just launched, didn't they?
But the start of the Austrian Grand Prix was not Ralf Schumacher, it was Eddie Irvine, 13th on the grid, 1-3, and he's in 6th position now in the Jaguar. I don't think he'll be expected to stay there because Jaguar are still working very hard on the car, but you can see him bobbing and weaving as he goes into the right-hander at turn 4.
Now they've got the car inside the white lines that show either end of the pit lane itself, Murray. They can start, the mechanics can start Häkkönen's car, as the same with Frentzen and Trulli, and he can get back into the race if they can restart it. Now, we understand the safety car is coming in this lap, and the race director, Charlie Whiting, will not be pleased to see a McLaren parked right across the fast lane of the pits there.
Well, I'll tell you this, there's been a lot of discussion about whether Ron Dennis, the boss of the McLaren team, would ask Mika Häkkinen to defer to David Coulthard, as Coulthard is doing so well in the championship compared with Häkkinen. I don't think there's any doubt that that will have to happen now. It's going to be no points for Mika Häkkinen in this race, and David Coulthard is in 5th position as the race is going to restart. Now watch out, because they're all tied up together, and it's Montoya, Schumacher, Ralf, Schumacher, Michael, Barrichello, David Coulthard, then there's a gap to Eddie Irvine. Behind Eddie Irvine is Jos Verstappen in the arrows. He's come up from 16th to 7th position. Another terrific start. The Austrian Grand Prix is go again, and this is lap 4 out of 71.
Häkkinen then driving down the pit lane. Murray just saw him get up and running. He was parked in the fast lane, and Benetton came through. I don't know who that was who pitted, but Häkkinen, no problems there. He's now back in the race. Of course, he's lost those 2 laps, and there you see then an overhead shot of Mika Häkkinen joining the race, plumb last. At the moment, Frentzen is the only retiree of those 4 that stalled on the grid.
Yeah, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen was in 8th position in the World Championship, looking to do much better this year in the Jordan, which is going so much better, but no luck here in Austria. And it's still close up at the front between Coulthard and Montoya, just 2 seconds when this lap started, shaking his head, sitting in the Jordan in the garage, Heinz-Harald Frentzen from Mönchengladbach, who is 3 times a Grand Prix winner. Now, remember, the Williams BMWs are on Michelin tyres, and Rubens Barrichello very saucily having a look at his team leader, Michael Schumacher, as they go into turn 1. The gap between the 2 is very close.
Look at Verstappen right up behind. Verstappen clearly on lower fuel, and that is Trulli off the road. Trulli out of what is 19th place. He stalled on the grid, remember. Verstappen was shaping up. Did he pass the McLaren? Yes, he did. Verstappen then up into 5th place, having passed Coulthard, who appears to be very slow at this stage of the race.
Now, that arrows with the Asia Tech engine is blindingly quick in a straight line, and that's what happened to Trulli. Trulli hit, I think, was it Pedro de la Rosa or was it Eddie Irvine? Whichever, it was one of the Jaguars. He is out of the race, so it looks as though both the Jordan drivers are taking an early bath, because we are now on lap 5, and Verstappen, I suspect, Mika Häkkinen tours in, retires from the 4th time in 6 races. He's only had 2 points finishes at the San Marino Grand Prix and Malaysia. Replay of Jarno Trulli going off at turn 1, lap 5 now.
Well, Trulli would already been a lap down. Whichever Jaguar he was fighting, he would have been a lap down because of his start line problems, but already then in the gravel trap for him. And look at Barrichello hustling teammate Michael Schumacher, 3rd and 4th place, and Montoya then with a 1-second lead over his teammate. Barrichello shaping up then to have a look up the inside into turn 2. Can he make it round Michael Schumacher? That was close.
Yeah, I'll have you chuck your nose off, says Michael Schumacher. And Jos Verstappen, look at him in the air. Now, I was saying earlier on, I suspect he's on a 2-stop strategy. That car is blindingly quick in a straight line. We saw him do wonderfully well in the Malaysian Grand Prix in the wet. They seem to have a very good control system on the car. But Verstappen is closed right up now to Rubens Barrichello in the Ferrari. Race order, lap 6, Montoya, Ralf Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello. There's 2 seconds covering the first 4, covering the first 5, and Jos Verstappen has just made the fastest lap of the race so far in the arrows. Michelin tyres, first and second. Bridgestone, third, fourth and fifth. And in sixth position, David Coulthard is in the points. David Coulthard started seventh, he got up to fifth, he's been passed by Jos Verstappen. An incredible drive by the Dutchman, Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows. He has a look at Barrichello. Barrichello does not have a look at Michael Schumacher this time. It's coming up to turn 2 that Barrichello starts to close, or has done in the past, on Michael Schumacher. But it looks as though Michael has got the legs on his teammate at the present moment as Montoya, Ralf Schumacher, Michael, Barrichello, and it is Williams BMW, Ferrari. What a change at the front. The McLarens, only one of them in the points and the other out of the race.
Well, we saw Montoya carelessly leading the Brazilian Grand Prix, of course. Murray wondered if he'd feel under pressure leading his first Grand Prix back then. And he made no mistakes at all until, ironically, Verstappen ran into him as he lapped him. But there's a good squabble down the field, and that must be Irvine, Panis, Villeneuve and Benoldi in the second arrow. So we're looking there at 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th, and as you can see, it's very close.
Yeah, the two arrows are doing well. Benoldi, Enrique Benoldi from Brazil, new to Grand Prix racing, Formula 1 this year. And the Williams team in the garage look impassively at their man as they cross the line. And already we have exceeded 1/10 the distance in the Austrian Grand Prix. And Jos Verstappen driving magnificently. Now, that is Heidfeld behind, no, it's Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen in 7th position behind David Coulthard, the man in the points in the McLaren. And out of the race already, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Mika Häkkinen and Fisichella has retired in the Benetton. 19 left out of the 22 who started, lap 8.
Yes, it was obviously Raikkonen then who got away well. It was Heidfeld in the sister Sauber that stalled on the line, not Raikkonen. Heidfeld down in 18th, Trulli down in 19th. The other two stallers on the grid are both out of the race. Häkkinen and Frentzen, they're unable to get those cars running. You saw Häkkinen pulling in the pit garage nose first. He knew his day was over. And now Verstappen's got up onto the back of Barrichello. Can't do too much about the Ferraris. Surely he's on a lower fuel load, significantly lower, I'd imagine. Yeah. And as the main players now settle into the race, and the pattern begins to be set.
So the question now is, what about fuel stop strategies? Well, I would expect Jos Verstappen to come in first, and if he's on a two-stopper, he'll probably come in round about lap 23. We're on lap 9 at the present moment with the two Ferraris and Verstappen 3rd, 4th, 5th absolutely together. And if Verstappen's on a two-stopper, I say he'll come in round about lap 23. If the others are on a one-stopper, I think the earliest we can expect anybody to come in will be round about lap 38. But I expect everybody to stay out for as long as they possibly can. Start with a heavy fuel load, come in late, take on as little fuel as possible to save as much time as possible, and then sprint out. And the Michelin tyres are going to be stronger, they believe, in the second half of the race than in the first. The Bridgestones are very stable throughout the race, and it's Michelin leading, Michelin second, and then the Bridgestone runners, the two Ferraris, and Jos Verstappen. And look how tight it is around the circuit. Now, I am surprised, Martin, that Michael Schumacher is not doing better than this. He got pole position absolutely magnificently. You think he's playing some sort of a waiting game? Doesn't look like it.
I suspect he's quite fat on fuel, to be honest, Murray, and I'm sure Coulthard is, having had a poor grid slot. I'm sure both McLarens were on low fuel, but Montoya leads from Schumacher, Ralf, Michael Schumacher 3rd, and that was Benoldi passing Eddie Irvine there. So Benoldi making his way through the field, Barrichello 4th, Verstappen 5th, Coulthard in 6th. We'll be back shortly.
Hoor, Villeneuve in de rond. Je kon aanzien komen dat hij daar geen ruimte had om in te halen. En dan is Irvine er weer voorbij. En dan komen ook de heren van Prost voorbij zeilen. Het was trouwens Booty die hem inhaalde. Ai, wie is dat? Is dat een van de Williams die daarnaast de baan raakte? Ja, ik mis daar volgens mij Ralf Schumacher vooraan. Dit is Michael Schumacher, maar waar is Ralf? Of heb ik mij lelijk vergist? Volgens mij was daar een Williams die even van de baan gleed. Dit is Coulthard. Dit is Raikkonen. Dit is Panis. Dit is Benoldi. En daar inderdaad Ralf Schumacher met een probleem. Ralf Schumacher tergend langzaam op weg naar de pits. Nou, daar staan de monteurs van Williams al klaar. Ai, dat is zuur voor het team van Williams, voor Ralf Schumacher. En wat is er aan de hand met de Duitser?
I mean, brakes is too risky for me. Sorry.
I'm coming in, too risky. Iets met de remmen. Zoveel is duidelijk. Hij wil niet verder. Volgende uitvaller is Ralf Schumacher. Nou, dan hebben we Jos Verstappen nu op de 4e plaats. Want rekenen kunnen we. Jongen, wie had het kunnen denken? Jos Verstappen vertrok als 16e aan de Grote Prijs van Oostenrijk. We hebben 10 ronden geleden en hij ligt op de 4e plaats. Ja, we weten van de Nederlander dat hij goed start. Nou, dat heeft hij vandaag ook weer gedaan. Zocht de gaatjes, dook erin. Maar daarbij wel de aantekening dat hij een lichte wagen heeft en hoogstwaarschijnlijk dus op een 2-stop strategie zit. Nu is het zaak voor Verstappen om...
Lap 12 out of 71 and you are looking at the stricken Williams BMW of Ralf Schumacher, who has just retired. He has rolled into the pit lane having lost his place. There it goes, Schumacher, Michael through, there goes Barrichello, there goes Verstappen in the arrows. So Verstappen is now up into 4th position and Montoya is being pushed very hard indeed.
If that's the replay then of Ralf Schumacher falling out of the race, some kind of technical problem on the way into turn 3. This happened earlier on in the race too. Eddie Irvine seems to be going backwards down the field, squeezing Villeneuve. They just the gentlest of kisses, and Villeneuve into a bit of a pendulum swing there. Irvine still holding down 9th place, certainly on his back foot. Jacques having to take to the grass. Yeah, he lost it initially, didn't he, off of the actual curbing and grass on the way in, as Eddie probably didn't see him coming up there. So Jacques will recover from that spin. We don't know what the problem is with Ralf Schumacher. And now look, the 2 Ferraris are hustling Montoya. Montoya's fallen off the pace by some 0.8 of a second. Remember what I said to you on the grid. The Michelins apparently go away then for 10 to 15 laps after the early stages of the running, and hopefully come back to them later in the stint. And now you're seeing all the signs of that as the 2 Ferraris, Verstappen and Coulthard, home in on Montoya in the lead. James.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher knew the game was up, Martin, as he rolled down the pit lane. The engine was switched off. The mechanics have had a really good look at the car, and it's a right rear problem. I think it's a suspension failure. Could be a brake problem, but it's more likely to be a suspension failure. But as you say, these tyres, the Michelin tyres, Montoya's struggling.
And thank you, James, because now Michael Schumacher is right up with Montoya's Williams BMW, pushing very hard indeed. The Colombian is under pressure with a massive capital P, and Rubens Barrichello is hanging on to Michael Schumacher, and absolutely fabulous. Look at the way Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows is hanging on to the 3 cars ahead of him. They must have a lot of horsepower compared with him, but that Asia Tech engine is very strong indeed. They've been developing it. He's running very low downforce, but he's managing to hold the car on the track, and that is through into lap 14 out of 71.
Well, the BMW with too much grunt up the hill for Michael to have a look, but Montoya really struggling through the corners. The tyres grain. Let me tell you what that means. They get the rubber rolls on top of the tyre, and instead of the tyre sitting on the track, you're squirming around on the little balls of rubber. You can't slow the car down, you can't turn it in, and you can't get on the power. And look, he's just absolutely a victim to be overtaken. All he can do is make that car as wide as possible. But surely they're going to pass him easily, as some say. When they do, they'll all go past him, but he's certainly clearly making a good job of holding them up. But he just has not got the grip to turn in or get out of the corners.
But he's holding him, and Rubens Barrichello, of course, is keeping Michael Schumacher respectable. Verstappen is keeping Barrichello respectable. Barrichello is looking for a way past Schumacher, who's got to hold him back. and at the same time try to attack Montoya. And that has given David Coulthard the opportunity to close a bit, and Raikkonen is in a 6, but no, the Sauber is right up with them now, because Montoya is slowing up the race. You see, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and in 7th position, Olivier Panis in the BAR is closing on them. Montoya is struggling. Something has got to give.
Well, the tyres are letting him down. We know at this stage, we know how fast that car is in a straight line. And providing he can keep parking it in the middle of the apex. And of course, while you're fighting a guy who's holding up, creating a traffic jam, you've got to watch him. And you've got to watch your mirrors as well, Murray, because everybody will be trying to make, and somebody is being black flagged. So a black flag then.
It's Trulli. Jarno Trulli is being black flagged. Apparently he left the pit lane while the red light was on. You're not allowed to leave the pit lane until there's a green light showing. There's somebody who watches the approaching track, and if he sees cars bearing down on the end of the pit lane, he'll give them a red light.
Yes, the only time the red light comes on at the end of the pit lane is when the snake behind the safety car is coming around. As it enters the beginning of the pit zone, the red light goes on. You're not allowed to join until the whole crocodile has passed the end of the pit lane, truly, clearly ignoring that. And can Montoya keep this lot behind him while he waits those few laps for his tyres to come back in? At the moment, he's managing to do it.
Well, 25-year-old Juan Pablo from Bogotá in Colombia is an incredible man. He's totally unfazed.
This is the best chance that Michael Schumacher's had so far, Murray. Sorry to interrupt you, but can he go around the outside? We know Michael can brake a lot later, and still he's coming back. Michael's got to think of his world championship.
Oh, through goes Barrichello. Sorry, Martin. Through goes Barrichello. Off goes Montoya. Off goes Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher tried to dive inside Montoya, who had to go wide. He's gone onto the gravel, and so Rubens Barrichello has grasped his opportunity, and now Williams have got to fight back. We've seen Schumacher go out of the race. What's happening to Montoya? There he is inside Enrique Benoldi. So Montoya has slipped from 1st to 7th places.
Yes, and Montoya deciding he would. That was silly, actually. He should have let Michael go. He should realise that he's not in a position to fight for this race. And Michael went down the outside. He had a much better braking capacity. We know that's a tyre-related thing at this stage of the race. And the Colombian just would not yield, and it's cost him and it's cost Schumacher dearly.
Question for historical enthusiasts: when was an Arrows last on a podium position? A long time ago, and it's Jos Verstappen now in 3rd position.
The Hungary 97, remember Damon nearly won the race, lost it on the very last lap at the Hungaroring, but Verstappen then very fast, whatever fuel load he's got in that car.
So Montoya has got a clear track in front of him, but a lot of cars in front of him. And David Coulthard is now right up there with Jos Verstappen. It's Barrichello leading. It is Verstappen now in 2nd position. And behind Verstappen is David Coulthard. It's getting very stretched indeed as Michael Schumacher closes in 6th position on Olivier Panis. Replay.
Here we go then, Michael saying, OK, you're going to cover the line. Well, I'll have to go down the outside. And the Colombian getting back off the brakes, look, losing the back of the car, really just almost sacrificed himself in that corner so as not to lose the lead. And Michael Schumacher definitely paid the price. He had no option but to try to go around the outside of him. The Colombian doing such a good job of blocking the racing line, and he's perfectly entitled to do that. But as he got off the brake pedal, he left himself way too little space to slow the car down. Luckily for Michael, he didn't stall the end. And watch Montoya lose the back of the car, have to turn into the slide, and begins to take up the space that Michael thought he would go around. Michael then taking a few risks there, you have to say, to try and get around the outside of that Williams.
Well, I don't know if you've registered this, but this is a quite incredible drive by Kimi Raikkonen as Enrique Benoldi in the Arrows comes in. He's obviously going to retire. He's not going up to his tyre-changing position. Into the garage goes Benoldi from 8th position. That means Eddie Irvine moves up, and Kimi Raikkonen in the Sauber is in 4th place. There he is in the blue and white car, followed by Olivier Panis. Behind Olivier Panis is Michael Schumacher. Fastest lap of the race, Michael Schumacher, 1 minute 12.2, and that is about half a second outside the lap record.
Yeah, Michael over a second faster than anybody else while he closed the gap to Panis, obviously recovering from that turn 2 incident with Montoya. A man with a smile on his face at the moment, will be David Coulthard, his main championship protagonist, now behind him. His teammate once again out of the race, Häkkinen stalling on the grid and never really getting his car up and running. He must surely know that Verstappen in second place will be stopping earlier than he does for fuel. So Coulthard feeling pretty happy with life. The only problem he's got is that Michael Schumacher is still very much in this race, albeit 6th place right now.
Lap 19 then out of 71. You see in front of you the top 7, but here they are again. Rubens Barrichello leading the Austrian Grand Prix from Jos Verstappen by 6/10 of a second. David Coulthard, who started 7th, is now 3rd. Kimi Räikkönen, who started 9th, is now 4th. Olivier Panis in the BAR 5th. Michael Schumacher, who slipped off, is now up into 6th position and challenging. Montoya, who was leading, is in 7th place. 8th is Eddie Irvine. 9th is Villeneuve. 10th is the second Jaguar of Pedro de la Rosa, driving in his second race for the team. They're doing much better here. Retirements. Frentzen is out. Häkkinen is out. Fisichella is out. Ralf Schumacher is out. Trulli is out. 17 out of the 22 who started are still running.
Now, strangely then, Montoya, running back there in 7th place, is now back on the kind of pace he was running at the start of this Grand Prix. Seems like that graining and lurgy problem from his tyres have actually gone away, and he's now back on pace, but it's too late for him. So, Barrichello from Verstappen by 7/10 of a second only. Coulthard a further 1.4 down the road. We'll take a break.
België en Hongarije, dat waren de 2 grote prijzen toen waar hij de 3e plaats haalde. Vorig jaar eentje 5e in Canada Verstappen en eentje 4e in Italië. Niet op het podium, wie weet vandaag. Maar we weten dus van de Nederlander dat hij weinig benzine aan boord heeft en dat hij in ieder geval 1 extra stop gaat maken. Schumacher achter de wagen van Olivier Panis. Montoya achter Schumacher op de 7e plaats. Een achterstand van 5 seconden door zijn avonturen in de grindbak. Maar heeft wel een voorsprong van 16 seconden op de nummer 8, Eddie Irvine. Villeneuve 9e, De La Rosa 10e, Alesi 11e, Burti 12e, Button 13e, Alonso 14e, Tauso Marquez 15e en Nick Heidfeld op de 16e plaats. Bernoldi is niet meer uit de garage gekomen, want er staat met grote letters retired achter zijn naam. En dat betekent in het Nederlands dat hij dus niet meer in de race zit. Ja, 20 ronden van de 71 gehad. Als ik alle hoogtepunten nu al zou moeten opsommen, dan ben ik een half uur bezig, denk ik. Dus dat doe ik dan ook maar even niet. En daar een aanval van Michael Schumacher. Oh, dit is het moment, sorry. Wel op blijven letten. Ja, Montoya mist volledig het rempunt. Schumacher is dan wel zo handig om maar heel hard op het rempedaal te drukken. In ieder geval de grindbak vermijdend. Ik dacht even dat Schumacher daar punt stond om Panis in te gaan halen. Maar daar zit hij nog steeds achter. En hier rustig op de 2e plaats Jos Verstappen. De zaak nu het hoofd koel te houden en geen gekke dingen te gaan doen. En daar Patrick Head. Het zag er allemaal zo mooi uit voor zijn coureurs. 2e en 3e op de grid.
Lap 22 out of 71 then. Just approaching 1/3 distance as you look at Juan Pablo Montoya in the Williams. He is in 7th position, not making any impression on Michael Schumacher. Indeed, he's dropping back a bit after having run wide and gone onto the gravel. But Michael Schumacher, and there he is in 6th position, has not managed to get ahead of Olivier Panis in the BAR. Panis can't do anything about Kimi Räikkönen, who is in 4th place in the Sauber. David Coulthard, who started in 7th position, looks as though he's good for World Championship points. He's missed a consistency this year. He's already scored in all the 5 World Championship races this year. He's the only man to have done so, and I think James Allen has got news for us.
Yeah, just trying to work out what the strategies everyone is on. Rubens Barrichello, David Coulthard, Kimi Räikkönen, Olivier Panis and Michael Schumacher, I reckon, are on quite a lot of fuel. They can go perhaps as long as lap 44, 45, 46 if necessary. Verstappen, we've said, is lighter on fuel. I believe Montoya probably is as well. So that means that Räikkönen is looking looking very good here. But the guy to focus on for me is David Coulthard. I do believe that with a bit of patience, and the McLaren, who have a fantastic pit stop record, they can actually win this race here today if Coulthard is a little bit lucky.
Yeah, and at the moment, Michael Schumacher's on 1 World Championship point, and David Coulthard is on 4 World Championship points for 3rd position. So he's closing the gap by some 3 points, and he's 8 points behind Michael Schumacher in the championship at the present moment. But there's a long, long way to go in this race. David Coulthard, there he is, supremely fit. And the McLaren team were obviously stung to the quick by their failure to do well in qualifying yesterday. And that is the Arrows team.
Well, only 1 Arrows left in the race, so bad news then for Verstappen. He's going so well. Obviously, we all knew he had less fuel than the cars he's running around, but he's coming in at a 3rd distance, just over a 3rd distance, a normal 2-stopper then for Verstappen, and that will put him down the order. Nonetheless, a good run from him in the early stages of this race. Coulthard then moving up to 2nd, Raikkonen then up into 3rd place at this stage of the race. Barrichello, a new fastest lap up front on a 1:12.2, and Coulthard just about matching him in 2nd place.
Well, if Kimi Raikkonen moves into 3rd position as into the pits comes Jos Verstappen, it'll mean to say that Sauber are in a podium position for the 2nd time this year. The seconds ticking away, out goes Jos Verstappen. Now, the first 7 have gone through. We're waiting for Eddie Irvine now in 8th position as Verstappen comes up to the exit from the pit lane at turn 1. Eddie Irvine and Villeneuve have gone through, so it looks to me as though Jos Verstappen, who came in from 7th place, has dropped to 10th position. David Coulthard, of course, has moved up a place. There is the race leader, Rubens Barrichello. He's 3 seconds now. No, he's 3 seconds ahead of David Coulthard. And Kimi Raikkonen in 3rd place. Panis is 4th. Michael Schumacher has been elevated to 5th position. Only one of the leaders has yet made a pit stop, and that, of course, was the man we've just seen, Jos Verstappen, as Panis continues to bottle up Michael Schumacher. Panis now in 4th place.
Yes, I don't think Verstappen will be that far down. He could still have maintained at 7th place, so working out quite well for Verstappen at this stage of the race. As James said, these guys could well go well over 40 laps, I think, with the amount of fuel. And Michael Schumacher losing out on the exit of turn 1 there in the turbulent air of the BAR Honda, and nothing he can do. He's nowhere near close enough to have a nibble. Panis, an old hand these days, not going to make too many mistakes. And we're on board with Villeneuve then, who is chasing Eddie Irvine in 8th. Remember, they've already touched once in this race, and causing a spin on this very corner for Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, if any team, and there is the BAR and the Ferrari really battling, and Michael Schumacher then has managed to get ahead of Panis.
Panis must have a problem. He lost so much time in that one straight and corner. I wonder if Panis has got some kind of problem then. Already losing 200 or 300 metres to Michael Schumacher. Hopefully we'll get a replay of that one. Schumacher then now staring at the back of the Sauber of the 21-year-old. And look, here's Panis and Michael then really taking an easy run up to the inside. And do they touch? No, they don't. I wonder why Panis lost so much time. Maybe we'll find out shortly.
Well, whatever, that's a very slippery corner. Turns 1 and 2 have been claiming driver after driver in practicing and qualifying. And you hit the gravel there, you get a lot of dust, you get onto the grass, you lose momentum, of course, because you're going uphill. And Panis is definitely dropping back as Raikkonen in 3rd position can now see the Scarlet Ferrari in his mirrors. And the gap between Raikkonen and Michael Schumacher is just under 2 seconds. And the comparative lap times were, well, there was only a 1/10 of a second in it to Michael Schumacher's advantage on the previous lap. But that was when he was battling with Olivier Panis, and he's pulling away from the BAR, closing on the Sauber in front of him. We're on lap 26 now, so we are more than 1/3 of the way through the Austrian Grand Prix 71-lap race.
Well, let me remind you what's happened so far. Both Jordans stalled on the grid, as did Heidfeld in the Sauber and Mika Hakkinen in the McLaren. At the first corner, the Williams are 1 and 2. Montoya leading well, Ralph staying with him, Ralph Schumacher. Schumacher dropping out then with some kind of technical problem, and then the tyres going away on Montoya's car, tripping over with Michael into turn 2. Barrichello takes over the lead. Then Verstappen was running well. He's had to pit early. He was on a low fuel load, and Bernoldi is out in the arrows. He retired mechanical problems. Truly black flag disqualified for leaving the pits under the red light while the safety car was going past. And Ralph, I've talked about Fisichella, just a retirement early on. Hakkinen and Frentzen never getting up and running in this race after stalling on the grid.
As you look at the battle for third position, Kimi Raikkonen in the blue and white Sauber Petronas Ferrari engine is being challenged by the Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, who's taken 1.6 seconds out of his 1.9-second lap. And is that a McLaren? I thought it was a McLaren. It was a Minardi. It was Tasso Marquez who was slowing up. And Michael Schumacher now, there he is. There is Marquez in the European Minardi touring out of the race. Well, he was in 15th position ahead of Nick Heidfeld, who had the bad start, of course, in the second Sauber. He's still running now in 15th position, but he is a lap adrift. Kimi Raikkonen continues to resist the efforts, the sterling efforts of Michael Schumacher to get past him, but surely it must be only a matter of time. The Ferrari is quicker, and look at the experience of Michael Schumacher compared with Raikkonen.
It'll be interesting to see how Raikkonen handles this. He's been so supremely impressive and confident in these early stages. Michael, great drive there out of turn 2. Surely just in the sweet spot for a good toe all the way down. We know the works Ferrari engine must have more power than the customer Ferrari engine, and there you see it clearly for yourselves.
Back into the podium position, Michael Schumacher, who slid off at turn 2 in that confrontation with Juan Pablo Montoya, who is now in the points, incidentally. Montoya, with Verstappen having come into the pits, is now in 6th position. Replay as at the Grosser curve, Schumacher takes 3rd position.
Interestingly, Schumacher holding his hand up to Raikkonen to say thanks for letting me through. I think it's really thanks for being mature and sensible about this. I don't think Raikkonen was making it too easy for Michael Schumacher. Michael feeling the need to thank him. And there's Michael lining up. Must have been a replay earlier in the race as he was lining up to pass Panis.
Probably getting on for another 20 laps before the leaders come in for their sole pit stop. But the top 6 on lap 29 out of 71. Rubens Barrichello 2.3 seconds ahead of David Coulthard, who is 4 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher, who is just past Kimi Raikkonen, who is 4th. 5th is Olivier Panis in the BAR. 6th is Montoya, the previous race leader. We are leaving Spielberg, but come back to us soon now.
is nog op de baan. En hier het moment dat Rubens Barrichello Jensen Button op een ronde zet. Dat moet toch een hard gelach zijn voor die jonge Engelsman. Vorig jaar nog rijdend voor het team van Frank Williams. Sterk debuutseizoen, Jensen Button. Uiteindelijk die 8e in het wereldkampioenschap met 12 punten. Er een paar goede races bij zitten. 1 keer 4e, 4 keer 5e en een keertje 6e. Ja, nu rijdt hij in de Benetton. Dat is dit jaar geen geweldige wagen. Murti gaat aan de kant voor zijn landgenoot Barrichello. Murti tegenwoordig rijdt voor het team van Prost. Ligt op de 12e plaats. En ook daar is Barrichello nu voorbij. Dat betekent nog 11 wagens in dezelfde ronde. De volgende man die Barrichello moet gaan dubbelen zag je daardoor in beeld glijden. De groene Jaguar van Pedro de la Rosa. Pitboard voor Michael Schumacher. Verschil met Coulthard. Je ziet het, 3,8 seconden. Draagt hij zometeen door. Inmiddels heeft Juan Pablo Montoya weer zijn oude tempo teruggevonden. Dat betekent dat het gaatje met Jos Verstappen wat groter is geworden, namelijk 18 seconden. Voorsprong van Verstappen op Eddie Irvine is 7,5 seconden. Als Schumacher dit tempo blijft rijden, heeft hij volgens onze computer 7 ronden nodig om. Dat we hier even een uitstapje zien. Ik denk van iemand in de achterhoede. Het was een blauwe wagen van Prost. 7 ronden nodig om Coulthard te pakken. En daar is Barrichello de la Rosa voorbij. Hier de onderlinge verschillen van de top 6. Michael Schumacher die Jensen Button inhaalt. alsof hij stilstaat. Daar de uitvallers. De laatste was Tazo Marquez.
Lap 31 out of 71 in Austria. None of the current top 6 have made a pit stop yet. Rubens Barrichello, David Coulthard is 2.5 seconds behind him, but Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari is now closing on the McLaren in second place. Michael Schumacher's previous lap was nearly a second faster than David Coulthard. Kimi Raikkonen has been, and there you see David Coulthard. He's coming up to Pedro de la Rosa in the Jaguar to lap it.
Yeah, Coulthard's had 2 very bad laps in traffic, and look how close Michael Schumacher is. And Schumacher is on that lap 1.4 seconds faster than either Barrichello in first place or Coulthard in second place. A storming drive now from Michael Schumacher. He still easily has the ability to win this race.
Well, let's just remind ourselves about Mika Häkkinen, who was in 10th place in the World Championship with just 4 World Championship points when he started this race, the double World Champion. He has failed again. His car failed to get going. It was his 4th retirement from 6 races. It really does look now as though Mika Häkkinen is out of the championship from this year, and that he will have to defer to his teammate David Coulthard, who's had those 5 points finishes from 5 races this year, who is in second position this year now here, and he is some 3.5 seconds behind Rubens Barrichello as we ride with the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve with Eddie Irvine's Jaguar. There he is. There is Villeneuve, who suffered an engine failure in the half-hour warm-up this morning. Changed cars, and he's out in the spare car now as Barrichello turns into turn 1. Now the climb up to turn 2 as he builds to 185 miles an hour. Down through the box into second gear from 7th to 40 miles an hour on the apex. Stop it sliding. Just nip over the curbing there. Keep your left wheels off the grass. Down to turn 3, the Gerser curve. Second gear, 55 miles an hour. There is Jean Alesi in the blue Prost, about to be lapped by David Coulthard, who has got Michael Schumacher bearing down on him. Ron Dennis there, and Michael Schumacher is now 1.7 seconds, 1/10 of a second slower than Coulthard on the previous lap, and he has lapped Alesi.
And does Michael Schumacher get held up? Yes, he does, slightly behind Alesi. Alesi now yielding, but cost Schumacher there adjust a little bit, and Coulthard now with a bit of breathing space in front of him has fallen to 3.8 seconds behind. The traffic has not played into his hands at all, and both Ferraris gaining, and Coulthard now very much the meat in a Ferrari sandwich.
Yeah, we ought to be seeing some pretty quick laps soon because the fuel load is dropping all the time. Of course, the best lap we've had so far was Michael Schumacher, 1 minute 11.6, which is actually a new lap record. David Coulthard created the lap record last year, 1 minute 11.78. So Michael Schumacher has already broken the lap record. His fuel load is dropping. The weight of the car is going down. David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, and the gap just over 1.5 seconds. But Michael Schumacher is going faster on this lap than he's been before. It's exactly as I was just saying. As the fuel load goes down, he goes faster. He's just gone through the first of the 3 sectors on this circuit, faster than anybody. But what a battle is developing behind him, because we've now got lapped cars, and it's happening all the way down the field as Raikkonen and Panis and the others close up on them.
Yes, the big fight then is Montoya you're now looking at, closing in on Panis. 5th, Panis 6th. Montoya, remember, he fell back to 7th when he had the near coming together with Michael Schumacher into turn 2. And there's clear air at the front. Now we're going to see who's got the pace. Villeneuve then passing, and Montoya, I think that must be Eddie Irvine with some kind of problem. Louise.
And sadly with Mika Häkkinen, Mika, the 2nd race in a row we've seen a McLaren fail to get away off the line cleanly. Presumably it's your electronics yet again?
We simply don't know. We simply don't know. The team will investigate tonight and also tomorrow whole day to understand what has happened, and we don't know, was it my mistake or was it a technical failure in the car? It's very complicated to see that.
So many races into the championship now, so few points on the scoreboard. Is this the end of your championship hopes?
Well, it doesn't look too promising, does it?
Thanks, Mika.
Oh, bless him. He's a lovely bloke, very phlegmatic about it, because Mika Häkkinen, as I said earlier on, had only got 4 World Championship points compared with Michael's 36 when the race started. He's got no World Championship points from this race. Michael Schumacher, if he finishes, is going to get at least 4, I think. And he's continuing to challenge David Coulthard. But now the interest is developing with the Bridgestone and the Michelin tyres. The top Michelin driver is Montoya, with Ralf Schumacher, his Williams teammate, out of the race, and Montoya is 6th.
New fastest lap then of a 1:11.1 for Michael Schumacher. As I said, clear air at the front. And what did Barrichello do? A 1:11.8. Coulthard a 1:11.4. Michael Schumacher a 1:11.1. So there you can see the pace, and Michael Schumacher, this is critical for Coulthard. He knows that if he lets Schumacher past, surely Barrichello will be told to yield. If it's a Ferrari 1-2, Barrichello will have to yield, and it'll be 10 points for Michael and 4 points for David if he ends up in 3rd place. So he's somehow got to stay ahead of that Ferrari of Michael Schumacher's, so that Ferrari cannot bring team play into it.
Yeah, at the present moment, with the Ferraris 1st and 3rd, they're on a potential 14 Constructors' World Championship points, compared with McLaren 6 for David Coulthard. So the gap is extending by 8 points, and Ferrari were already 18 points ahead of McLaren. Ferrari, who won the Constructors' Championship in 1999, but lost the Drivers' Championship, and then they won it again last year, of course, so they're looking for a hat-trick to prove that they really are back at the top of Formula One, as historically they have been in the past, but they've had major gaps. Now, there is the Sauber diving out to take Jean Alesi, pursued by Montoya and Panis, there is Montoya. He is in 6th position, and you're looking now at the battle for 5th and 6th, Panis and Montoya.
Yeah, strange. We saw Panis really fall away from the pace, didn't we? And Michael Schumacher passed him easily in a straight line. Whatever his glitch was, it's fine now. So Raikkonen 4th, 2.2 seconds ahead. Then you can see Raikkonen at the front. That is a lapped Prost, and Panis coming under pressure. Montoya not close enough up there into turn 3, and they are just 0.4 of a second apart last time past the pits, and it's even less now. So a good scrap then. But look at Raikkonen up there in 4th place, and he clearly is not on a light fuel load. They're 37th. This is the 37th lap of the race.
And the Jaguar team mechanics coming out into the pit lane. I would guess it's for Eddie Irvine, who is in 8th position. There's quite a gap between him and Jos Verstappen. He's got Jacques Villeneuve right behind him, and Montoya is continuing to press. Now look at the gap between Raikkonen. There is Alesi about to be lapped.
And Panis running wide in the last turn. Montoya then just easily breezing up the inside, and Panis will not get back as they head up into 1. So Montoya takes over 6th place.
And Michael Schumacher is continuing to fly. He's now less than a second behind David Coulthard. Replay, Alesi in the blue car. Montoya dives inside. Panis's BAR gains the place. He's up into 5th position with Raikkonen, Schumacher, Coulthard and Barrichello ahead of him. We're looking at Rubens Barrichello, the man who won the German Grand Prix last year for Ferrari. His sole win for the Maranello team. Eddie, and the Jaguar exits the pit lane.
Della Rosa it was then that Jaguar were waiting for, so from 13th place Della Rosa came in for a pit stop. He's been lapped already. Everybody up to Jacques Villeneuve in 9th place has been lapped at this stage of the race, and it's really a head-to-head between Coulthard. It's 11.6 for Barrichello and 11.3 for Coulthard, and 11.288, just 0.8 of a second behind then for Michael Schumacher. Not much to choose.
So who is behind Schumacher that you're looking at now? Well, Raikkonen is 4th, Montoya is 5th, Panis is in 6th. Those are the points position. Jos Verstappen, who was going so well in 2nd place, is still close to the points. He's 7th position in the arrows, having made 1 pit stop, the highest runner to have stopped. Eddie Irvine is still out there, 8th position. Jacques Villeneuve just behind him is 9th. Jean Alesi, who you've just seen lapped by the 3 leaders, is 10th. And Jenson Button in the Benetton, by virtue of staying out, although he's been lapped, is higher than he's used to this year. He's in 11th position. And here in Austria last year, Jenson Button finished a fine 5th in his first Grand Prix year for the Williams team. Now, Button then in 11th place. Bertie in the Prost is 12th. Both the Prost are still running. Fernando Alonso in the European Minardi is in 13th place, ahead of a lapped Nick Heidfeld and Pedro de la Rosa, who has just been in the Jaguar. As the Ferrari, the McLaren and the second Ferrari complete their 39th lap. We're now into the last third of the race.
So Coulthard then once again a fraction slower than Michael Schumacher. The gap remains at 8/10, and they're both homing in on Barrichello. Barrichello now just 2 seconds in the lead as he negotiates the small uphill apex of turn 2, and a Minardi cruising, and that clearly must be Alonso, because Marquez out of the race earlier on.
Well, fine drive by Alonso, the very lowly funded Minardi team compared with the top constructors of Ferrari, Williams, Jordan, McLaren, Benetton, of course. And now look at this battle, here it is. On your right, in the black and silver car, David Coulthard, second in the World Championship. And the man who leads him in the World Championship is now big in his mirrors. It is Michael Schumacher. Not much in it, but Michael Schumacher is on the quickest lap of the race at the present moment. He's gone through both the first and second sectors faster than anybody else has been this afternoon. The temperature, by the way, is creeping up. It started at 28 degrees, the track temperature. It's now 33, but still Michael Schumacher goes across the line as we ride with Heidfeld. Now Heidfeld in the Sauber. Let's Martin, talk us through from the driver's point of view.
He's heading down into turn 3, and there's locking brakes there because it's a downhill slope and you have to start turning in. You unload the right front as you turn in. So easy to snatch a brake, and it's a question of balancing the car through here and looking for that curb on the outside, getting on the power as soon as you're confident and before you can see the curb. And a long left-hander. This is turn 7, which is an absolute nothing for a Formula 1 car, and we head to a very exciting Minardi pit stop.
And a very exciting Juan Pablo Montoya is closing on Kimi Raikkonen. He's about to make the fastest lap of the race, the Colombian in the Williams BMW with its Michelin tyres. Out goes Jenson Button in the Benetton, and Montoya is just about 1.5 seconds now behind Kimi Raikkonen, as there is Barrichello. Now look how close it is. Barrichello, then Coulthard, then Michael Schumacher, then we're going to see Raikkonen, but there's about a 12-second gap between Schumacher, Michael and Raikkonen from Finland. But Montoya is closing fast on the Sauber.
Right, Coulthard took 9/10 out of Barrichello on that lap, and in his fastest lap of the race, he's responded to the Scarlet Ferrari filling his mirrors, and now look, it's much more even Stevens. 1.1 behind Barrichello, 0.8 ahead of Michael, and clearly Coulthard's got his work cut out this afternoon. He's going to feel pretty bruised, I think, time he's had to fight both these Ferraris off. James, what can you tell us?
It's the crucial phase of the race here, Martin. We're building up towards the pit stops now. Just up to 2 seconds between the top 3. That's enough for a mistake to decide the outcome in the pit stops. It takes 26 seconds to come in here, put the fuel in the car and get back out again. And as I say, we're into the area now where a mistake could decide it, a stroke of genius, or just simply good pit work.
Well, you've just seen Fisichella talking to Alan Permain, and that's Montoya slowing. Montoya slowed right down, having closed up on Kimi Raikkonen. You can see the cars passing him. It looks as though we are about to see the second Williams BMW retirement. Yes, the crestfallen people in the garage are taking the gloves off. They know that it's now time to pack up their equipment. The second retirement. But Williams and BMW and Michelin have again shown that they are very much a force to be reckoned with in Grand Prix racing. They're still developing the car, they're still developing the tyres. They've done a fabulous job, but the Austrian Grand Prix is over for them, and that means to say that Panis will now be in 5th position, and Jos Verstappen, the gallant Jos Verstappen, who made that early pit stop in the Arrows, having been in 2nd position, is back in the points. Martin reminded me about that brilliant drive of Damon Hills in Hungary in 1997, when, against all the odds in the Arrows, he took and passed Michael Schumacher to lead the race. A brilliantly exciting and inspiring moment. Well, Jos Verstappen is doing a sterling job at the present moment too. Oh, steady on. He's just coasting it downhill. That's Juan Pablo Montoya. He's getting it away from the track, very sensible indeed, into a position of safety where there's no danger of it being helped, as Barrichello, Coulthard, Michael Schumacher. The gap between them in total 2 seconds on lap 43 out of 71. Over the line they go to complete the lap into their 44th lap.
So Michael, the quickest one that time around, the gap down to just 0.6 of a second now, and back on board with Heidfeld, your current 12th place man. Remember, he stalled on the grid, and that's why he's already a lap down in this race. Took him a long time to get those 4 cars running. Safety car out initially. Heidfeld really struggling to keep the back end of that car under control as he is chasing there. That is Villeneuve, so quite why he's changing this, because he's a lap behind.
Yeah, so lap 44, both the Ferraris very much in the hunt, only one of the McLarens with Häkkinen out. Both the Saubers are still running with Raikkonen very much in the points. Both the BARs are running with Panis in the points. Only one of the arrows, that of Jos Verstappen, is running. Both the Jaguars, Eddie Irvine is in 7th place and Pedro de la Rosa is still running. There's the Ferrari men coming out into the pit lane. This is going to be the first pit stop for one of the top 3 contestants, Barrichello and Schumacher, and there is the Michael Schumacher, 3rd position, and Barrichello stays out as he comes up behind the Jaguar.
Yes, and he's going to get a clean run up the inside, so that works out well for Barrichello. He'll lose a bit of time having to turn in early, but can Coulthard and David and Michael Schumacher clear the Jaguar before turn 2? Any little tiny piece of traffic, and there's a bit of gamesmanship, isn't it? They've gone back in again. Any tiny piece of traffic, look, and it has delayed them slightly, is absolutely critical at this stage. As James said, the pit stop will be critical, and the in and out laps will be equally as critical.
Panis in from 5th position. The gap between him and Verstappen was 22 seconds. The gap between him and Raikkonen ahead of him was 11 seconds. And so there is Jean Alesi coming in the Prost from 9th position, as out goes the BAR of Olivier Panis. Looks like a good stop that. 5th position, he may well have retained the... No, I don't think so. I think that Verstappen's probably got through, but Verstappen, of course, has got to make another stop, whereas Panis will not. And James, can you update us?
Well, Murray, you called it a piece of gamesmanship. It's exactly what it was. The Ferrari mechanics coming out. McLaren guys looking ready to respond. It's like a chessboard. They know, these mechanics down here, they know that they could well decide the outcome of this race. It could swing any one of 3 ways. Fantastic atmosphere. I can't remember a race which would hinge just as this will hinge on the pit stop.
Well, there is Panis back in the hunt in the Honda-powered BAR. Both the Jordans are out, of course. There's 4 Honda-powered cars, the 2 BARs and the 2 Jordans. A tremendous battle between them all the way through the season, because they both want Honda patronage next year. And Jordan, I would have said, had got the best chance, but BAR are doing best here, and Ferrari are out again.
And then we didn't see the last lap, but Barrichello lost a half a second to both Coulthard and Schumacher. There you can see they're much closer, and I don't think they're sandbagging this time. I believe one of the Ferraris will definitely be in the pits this time around. Which one will it be? Verstappen is in the pits for his 2nd stop too. Will it be Barrichello? Will it be Michael Schumacher? There's 9/10 between the 3 of them. How far can Coulthard go on his fuel? And and it's Schumacher. Schumacher in the pits.
From 3rd position. Now it is up to Rubens Barrichello and David Coulthard to really get the hammer down now to try to improve their advantage as Michael Schumacher stops.
If I was Ferrari, I'd be asking, James, can you tell us anything?
Well, looking about 9.3 seconds would be an ideal stop, pretty quick. That was a really nice stop. He's in the game. He's really in the game here, guys.
Yeah, remember they're 2/3 the way through the race, so they shouldn't be too long for fuel, James. But if I was Ferrari now, I'd be asking Barrichello to ease up on this next lap and try to hold Coulthard up if they want to bring championship leader Michael Schumacher into play.
Yeah, it's a tough one for Paul Rubens, of course. He's supposed to have equal rating with Michael Schumacher.